Until last month, I hadn't read a book in a decade. Okay, that's an exaggeration. I picked up a self-help book or maybe a little beachy fiction novel here and there for vacations to read throughout the years, but I have not been an avid reader since I was in high school. Each year has rolled around and I've made one of my New Year's resolutions to be a reader again. And without fail, it never happens. But this year, I wanted to change it. It took me 4 months into the year to finally make it happen, but I did it. Would you believe that in the first month I read 5 books? I don't think I've ever read 5 books in 1 month in my entire life. So although I wouldn't call myself a book girly yet, I wanted to sit down and just share with you guys what I read and what I plan to read next. And I don't know, just chat about books because I'm into them now. Let's jump in. Welcome to my little reading nook. I love this little nook so much, but to be honest, I don't use it that much. I've got my favorite drink in the whole wide world, my strawberry Waterloo. Gonna crack her open. A little ASMR action for you. You can't beat that sound. Can't beat that taste either. If you're a seltzer person, Waterloo strawberry, it tastes like a strawberry or like a red gusher or a fruit roll-up. It's just not sweet. So, you know, if you're not a seltzer person, you don't like the unsweetened soda, then you might not like it. But if you are, oh my gosh, it's life-changing. I made a video about getting back into reading about a month ago, and I'm here to report that it worked. I'm a reader now. I literally never thought that this day would come because, like I said before, this has been one of those things that was like always a resolution. I would say I want to read 1 book a month. Like I would set the bar that low, 1 book a month for a year. I can do that, anyone can do that. And I think where I was struggling was that I was always picking up self-help books and like self-improvement or like spirituality, you know, Christian books that I could read, which are great in balance, but you can't sit down and like binge one of those books. I also just realized I don't have my rings on. Yes, I am married to the most wonderful man in the world. I just took my rings off when I was working out and I forgot to put them back on. So yeah, you just can't binge those types of books. Like, it's not one of those things you can pick up and not put down, you know? I just had forgotten that I had this love of fiction and I love stories. In high school, I used to read so much. I remember one of my favorite things to do was to go to Books A Million with my family, and I would go to the adult or the young adult fiction, and I would always buy something and I would always read it. I mean, I would be addicted. Dude, back in the day, I used to be really into the Warriors books, which I feel like every time I tell someone that, they make fun of me. They're like, you read those? But I mean, I was young, I was little. Like, I don't know what age I was when I read those. I think I was probably like 10, you know? But that was like my first, I feel like when I started reading that series, that's when I realized, oh my gosh, I actually do love to read. And I was addicted to those books. What changed this year? This year, I really wanted to be intentional about getting away from my screens. It really began about a year ago when I started to feel like I have to make a shift in my life because I can't keep putting work above every other thing in life. I need things that I can enjoy. I need hobbies again. I realized I didn't have hobbies, and that was so unhealthy. And I think also as a creative person, as someone whose job is to like create and tell stories, I realized that, man, it's been such a long time since I've gotten lost in a story outside of a story that I watched on a screen, you know? I just felt like, man, it could really benefit me, not just on like a work level and like help inspire me for my work, but also I think it would just help me to tune out and get lost in a story that someone else wrote and get lost in another world that isn't mine. Reading is such a cool escape, and I feel like it's an escape that isn't necessarily as unhealthy as what escaping to social media and video games and binge watching TV shows. I feel like those they produce a lot of dopamine, and we get addicted to that dopamine. And I was like, dude, I need a dopamine detox, and I need a work detox. I need hobbies, and reading, I was determined for reading to be one of them. So let's just get into the books that I read this past month. All of these books that I'm talking about today, I already owned. A lot of them are old. A lot of them probably aren't even popular, or maybe they were popular at one time, they're not anymore. I don't know the relevancy of these books. I know nothing about them except for the fact that I bought them at some point in the last 15 years, and they've been sitting on my bookshelf since. We'll just jump right into them in order of what I read them. So as you might have seen in my first reading video, the first book that I picked up to get back into reading was Eleanor and Park. This is a young adult romance. It is very angsty. I really love the way that Rainbow Rowell writes. I felt like it was very conversational. There was so much dialogue. Sometimes I get a little bit bored of books that go too much into someone's like internal processes and like what's going on in their brain stream of consciousness. I like that. There's a good balance of that, but when it's like so much of that and not as much dialogue between characters, I get a little bit bored. I definitely would give this one a 3 stars. I was really disappointed in the ending, and it's not that I'm like I need a happy ending person. It's just that it felt like there was so much buildup for such a flat ending, if that makes sense. I think it was a good, easy read for me to jump back in. Then I started reading The Nightingale, which I had heard for years that The Nightingale was an incredible book. I wasn't sure if I would really enjoy like a historic time period piece, but I really enjoyed it. It was set during World War II, and it was following the relationship of 2 sisters, and also a little bit about their love lives and how they're navigating how the war is impacting France. And it's heart-wrenching, it's thrilling, it's romantic. Like there were so many elements in that story that really kept you engaged. I feel like I'm realizing that I love a good mix between like a romance and a thrill. Then I decided to start reading Wait and See by Wendy Pope. And this is not something that I sat down and read like these other books for extended amounts of time. This is something that I decided to just implement into my quiet time in the mornings and let it be something that I was reading a little bit of every single day. I wouldn't put too much pressure on myself. I wouldn't even read a full chapter every day. I'd read basically half a chapter. This book is a Christian book that is a good mix between reading and devotional journaling. There's a lot of like journal prompts / questions in it. And so every chapter, it's a little chunk of reading. And then at the end of the chapter, it would have a journaling portion that takes you to the last chapter of the book, which is fully journaling. And you use that throughout the reading. And so I would just do this in the mornings, and I seriously enjoyed this book so much. If you're a Christian, or even if you're not, if you are just someone that is in a period of waiting and you're just kind of at a weird season of just like an in-between season in life, I really recommend this book. It was really encouraging to me. It just made me look at where I'm at, the season that I'm in, a lot differently. It changed my perspective, and honestly, in a couple of my past videos, a lot of my inspiration for them and my mindset change that inspired those videos really came from me reading this book. So I definitely recommend this one. I would give a 4. The next book that I picked up was Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. And I really had high hopes for this book. I really did. I love John Green. Everything that I've ever read by him, I absolutely loved. Granted, I read most of his books when I was much younger, so I don't know. But he's always been a very popular author. I don't even know if he's still writing. I don't know what he's written recently. I know nothing. I'm so out of the loop. But I picked up this book when it was brand new and I never read it. And so I finally got it off my shelf and I read it. And this book was just disappointing in a lot of ways. I felt like I could relate a little bit to the main character just with her struggle with anxiety and I guess OCD. I'm not really sure. I don't even know if the book ever stated what exactly was wrong, but she obviously a lot throughout the entire book, she is talking about her internal struggles in her mind. And of course, that's so relatable to so many of us. And so I liked that portion to an extent, but I just felt like the ending fell so flat, just compared to everything else that he's written. It just didn't impress me. I don't know if I rated this on Goodreads. I probably did, and I probably rated it a 3. I honestly, now that I think about it, I think I would rate it more like a 2.5. It was an easy read. I feel like all John Green books are pretty easy reads, but it just was disappointing to me. The last book that I read was Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica. I don't know if I'm saying her name right, but holy crap, best book of the month. This book was so good. Thank you to my friend Evelyn who recommended it and let me borrow her copy. I absolutely loved this book. I would give it a 5 stars, honestly. 5-star book, so good. I was enthralled. I could not put it down. At the end of every chapter, I was like, I have to go on. I have to keep going. And for me, that's the kind of book I want to read, and that's the kind of book that I'm gonna rate 5 stars every time. If I can't put it down, I'm in. I don't want to go too into the story because I don't want to spoil anything, but it's a great, thrilling, suspenseful murder/missing person mystery, and it's jumping around from different points of view of people that are related to the case. And the whole time you're like, who did this? There's just lots of twists and turns, lots of surprises. Highly recommend. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, Mary Kubica, I wanna read everything else that she writes because so good. Let's go into the books that I'm gonna read next. These books all lived on my shelf as well, and I just picked out random ones. I have no idea about these books. Don't know if they're good, but we're gonna find out. And then maybe after I read these, I'll allow myself to buy a book. I've already started my first book of the month, and that is An Abundance of Catherines by John Green. I've had this book forever. I actually have multiple copies of this book for some reason. I have no idea why. But like I said before, I've always loved John Green, although I was disappointed with Turtles All the Way Down. I have high hopes for this one. It did win an award, so should be good. Then I've got The Road by Cormac McCarthy. Cormac McCarthy. This won a Pulitzer Prize, so hopefully it's good. I really don't know. And then I've got Moonwalking with Einstein. I have always heard that this book is really good. I think it's all about, it says right here, the art and science of remembering everything. And then I picked up this. I have actually tried to read The Catcher in the Rye so many times. it's a classic, right? I'm pretty sure it's a literary classic. And so I felt like, gosh, I have to read this at some point in my life. It's short. It seems like it would be an easy read, hopefully. I don't know. I have no idea what the story is even about. How old is this book? Things I Wish I Had Known Before I Got Married by Gary Chapman. I think that I bought this when me and Rob were engaged, and then I never read it. So I think it could be really great. We'll see. And then last but not least, Friend of Sinners by Rich Wilkerson. I feel like Rob has probably read this. I don't know, but we'll see. I don't know if it's gonna be good, but it says why Jesus cares more about relationship than perfection, which sounds like so good. So I'm excited. That wraps up what I read in my first month back to reading and what I plan to read next. I would love to hear from you guys in the comments. One, your opinions on the books that I read, and if you've read any of the books that I plan to read, please share all the deets. What did you think about them? Are they worth my time? And I need recommendations for what to read next, because I'm not giving up this journey of reading. I'm sticking with it. I'm reading pretty much every single day, and I want this to continue to be a part of my life. I think it's been really healthy for me, and I need all the recommendations that I can get. So please recommend any and all books that you love. Like I said, I love fiction, but I'm always down for something that's just interesting, whether it be something to learn about or something that's like self-help or something that's Christian. I would love to read really anything. Let me know if you enjoyed this video and you like sit down chats about reading. Let me know if you'd like to see more content like this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.